Hey everybody, this is PJ, and you're watching my latest Bionic Commando Rearmed 2 any% run. This is completed in 54:34 by SDA timing, which times by character control. So timing is going to start once the HUD appears in the first stage, and ends when the HUD disappears after killing the final boss. So this is a really interesting game, and for some reason this game gets a lot of hate. I think it's mostly because it's still the 2D platformer style of the other Bionic Commando games, but Spencer has a jump this time, and I think it really didn't it didn't jive well with a lot of the fan base. But this is a really outstanding game once you accept it for what it is. Of the 7 Bionic Commando games, this is my second favorite, just behind Bionic Commando NES. The speedrun is really fluid, and you can do some just incredible things. So the first stage is pretty chaotic. There are a whole bunch of glitches that we're going to see in quick succession here. So the first is a floor clip, and then second is grabbing items through walls. This trick happens exactly twice in any%. Once is here, and the other is at the end of this stage, so both in stage 1. And that was a trick found by Green a Link. And essentially what happens is, if you're facing the opposite direction that your grapple's traveling, the game doesn't really check collision detection for your grapple and objects. So what I do there, when the screen turns green, by the way, that's called BioVision. It's like a scanner that you would use like in Metroid Prime. It basically just lets you identify enemy weak points, or if there's something in the map that doesn't look quite right, like you don't know what an explosive barrel does the first time, the game will tell you. Or what a cracked ball is, how to break that, stuff like that. I just use it for basically buffering that trick. So essentially I fire a grapple horizontally to the right, I turn around to the left so that the grapple goes through the wall, I turn around to the right and then crouch, and that will enable collision detection again because I'm facing the same direction that the grapple's traveling, and it'll grab the power up and come through the wall and meet me. And I do it again here. So I fire it left, I turn around, and then I turn left again so it grabs it. And that one I don't do buffered because the wall's thinner, so it's a little bit easier. This stage 1, by the way, is an outstanding time. This is the fastest I've ever completed this stage in any%. And any% in this game is rather interesting. There's a whole lot of collectibles that you can get. This game has 6 unique weapons, much like the other Bionic Commando games. And then it has, oh gosh, I don't even know, 8 maybe? 6 or 8 sub-weapons and 6 or 8 accessories. So I collect 2 sub-weapons and 1 accessory. Or I don't even know what they're called. That's what I'm going to call them, though. 1 passive and 1 active sub-weapon. The sub-weapon I got there is Grenade. It's pretty great. Grenade breaks the single-tile breakable blocks that you'll see there. Rocket Launcher will also break those. But it also does a ton of damage to bosses, and even the time I saved on the first boss probably justifies collecting it. But the grenade is really handy. So I grabbed that, and I grabbed the speed booster. That was the other thing that I grabbed through the wall at the end of stage 1. And the speed booster, as you can imagine, just makes you move faster. So there are different levels of these, well, everything, every piece of equipment. The speed booster has 2 levels, grenade has 2 levels, maybe 3 actually, but I'm not going to upgrade that. And then the weapons have varying levels. So in an any% run, the only thing I do is grab basic grenade, no upgrade. I grab basic whiplash later in the game, I'll talk about that. I grab both upgrades for speed booster because they're mostly along the way. And then for weapons, I don't really grab any upgrades. So I got the bazooka early. The bazooka, you're supposed to need the bazooka to get the upgrade. So we actually grabbed the bazooka upgrade without having the bazooka in stage 1 by just pulling it through the wall. So we get that early. We get the Goliath launcher in the next stage. It's like a boomerang shooter weapon. It's handy to have that early for the boss fights and just clearing random enemies. It's definitely worth the time investment. And we upgrade the napalm launcher later in the game. That's the only other thing that's strictly optional that we do. Alright, so this is the third stage. This is the Mighty Jungle. Already, after just 2 stages, you can get a feel for just how smooth this game can be. The ability to generate momentum on any swing, from a standstill, from a vertical grapple, from anything, is just outstanding from a speedrunning perspective. This is a really easy game to play normally, but a speedrun is quite difficult. It has a pretty high skill cap. I'll get more into that in a bit. This is an OOB finish. This is the only stage that we finished from out of bounds. It's quite difficult to actually navigate through this. The out of bounds terrain here is rather elaborate, and it took me a number of years to get a firm grasp of where I was going. But what you're supposed to do in this stage is fight that, quote, jumbo tank boss, a little tiny, I don't know, refrigerator. And then, there's a cutscene, you ride an elevator up, you go to the side, and then you ride an elevator down into the mine shaft. But the game put the loading zone for the next stage underneath there. Like, you ride the elevator down into the mine shaft, into the loading zone. So we can just swing underneath the stage and hit the loading zone that way. This is the Goliath launcher. We grab it here. If you don't grab it here, well, I mean, even if you do grab it here, you're awarded the Goliath launcher after killing the first boss. So instead it gives me level 2 Goliath launcher from that boss. But this is really handy. It tracks your positioning, so it will always be at gun height. So if I fire it while falling, it'll extend out normally, but its Y position is going to track with Spencer. So you can do cute things like shoot it over a barrel and then crouch to kill the guy crouching on the other side. It's really handy for that. It is extremely strong. That's the second speed booster upgrade. It's extremely strong. I think it kills every single standard enemy in one hit, which is great because they just get in your way. You need some convenient way to get rid of them. Here's another use. This guy sometimes crouches behind, so I use that to get rid of him. It's just a super handy weapon. It takes basically no time to get. And it makes up all of the time that it takes to collect on the later boss, Brubaker. But it just speeds up everything along the way. It just makes things a lot smoother. Oh gosh, what was I talking about? Let's see. Oh right, so I was mentioning in the Mighty Jungle just how smooth this game can be and how high the skill cap is. So I started running this game back in like 2013 or 14. And, no, it wasn't 13. I think it was 2014. I started running this. And I thought I was good at this game then. And I was able to get through the stages, quote, smoothly, without bumping into an enemy or taking any recoil or getting hit, anything like that. And then over the years, I just, gradually improved more and more and more. And it got to the point where I recorded an IL table, an individual level table. It's basically just a compilation of playing each individual stage over and over and over again until you get a good time in that one stage, and then you move on and do the same thing to the next one. And this game has an in-game timer that's extremely accurate, so it's really good to compare your PBs on an individual level. So I recorded an IL table for this, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years ago, and then as I was doing attempts here, this is my favorite guard, by the way. He's stationed to watch this explosive barrel that's propped next to a wall on a mountainside. I shoot him just to let him know that he's doing a good job. It's good to give him some appreciation. But while I was doing these attempts, I was literally getting individual level world records. And I did the IL table with a completed file, so I had fully upgraded guns, and I could have accessories equipped from the beginning without wasting time in the menu, stuff like that. And I was still just handily beating my times. In fact, I believe this run has 1 or 2 individual level records. I don't remember which stages though. I think Fort Arturo, the second stage, was pretty close. I'll have to pay close attention. But yeah, I mean, you can save time all over the place in this game. It's a 54-minute long platformer, and there are just micro optimizations that you can do everywhere. One thing that I really like about this game, one thing that I didn't really pay attention to until recently, until I started optimizing the challenge rooms, is that it takes time to pull yourself up through a platform. So if you're trying to climb, which we'll see in Oh, not really the next stage, but we'll see it in a few stages coming up. You would think that it's faster to just immediately vertical grapple and pull yourself up, but if you do a short swing from the bottom of a platform, you can actually swing yourself onto a ledge without the climbing animation. So it's actually much more efficient to swing onto a ledge than to pull yourself through. And I should be doing it here on this platform. So we have to go to the left anyways, we just swing up through and save that animation. And just doing that everywhere possible saves a ton of time. Alright, so this stage, a few things are happening here. Alright, so first things first, I poked the shotgun through the wall to hit those switches without having to do it the intended way. And I tried to do a little bit of a skip there to grab that switch platform sooner. But it didn't work. So I was a bit late with my up grapple. And my backup plan didn't even work because the shielded soldier decided that he was invincible. So these guys sometimes take a ton of hits, and sometimes they just die in one. And you would think, well, surely that's because you're shooting his back and not his shield. But it really doesn't matter with them. Sometimes they can be camped directly on a grenade, and it doesn't do any damage to them. And sometimes it instantly kills them. Sometimes the shield breaks after 5 pistol shots. Sometimes it takes a rocket, a shotgun shot, a bunch of pistol shots, a grenade, and it's still just standing there. So they're really problematic. I got bad luck there. So it happens. That's really all it takes in this game. You can lose time really easily from just minor things going wrong. And one of the more frustrating things about this run, not this run in particular, but BCR2 any percent, is that certain enemies are just in very problematic positions, and you might want to swing over them or swing through them or something, but if they're in a wrong spot, you'll just bonk off of them. Like, there's absolutely no maneuver that you can do that will get you past them, and you can't kill them efficiently. So there are a lot of places where you just kind of hope that the enemies get out of your way, and if they don't, you get bonked. And a bonk just means, like, you don't take contact damage from pretty much anything in this game. You just take recoil, so it bonks you back, and you float away for like a full second, and you have no control during it. And usually during that, they get startled from you running into them, and then they turn around and shoot you when you're getting recoiled, and you get recoiled a second time. The best case scenario is that you land after that and can continue moving forward, but usually what happens is that it pushes you off a ledge and then you lose a ton of time. And that's very frustrating, and that's something that's extremely common in this game. So it's important to recognize from experience where those situations can happen and how to avoid them. So what we have here is our first boss. Now, with the exception of one boss in this game, all of them are strictly cycle-based. This guy, no matter how much damage you do on the final hit, will always be stuck at this amount of health. You can only do a certain amount of damage per cycle. So you're forced into 3 cycles here. All you have to do is shoot these side engine things until they turn red. They'll always do 4 attacks. They do middle left, left right, middle right, left right. And after the left right, second left right, if the engine's red, then it goes horizontal and you can climb up onto it. And what you're supposed to do at that point is a death from above off the top, and you hit the plunger, you hit that button. But found out that if you fire a rocket at the right height, the rocket functions as an impact. So it'll hit the button for you, and then you can go down and hit the golf cart. So that's the fastest way to approach that fight. It's a bit of a pain, like 2 minutes of just kind of staying tethered to the side and shooting, but it is what it is. Alright, so the Altec Ruins, it's an interesting stage, and it's interesting because at this point in the game you're not supposed to have the rocket launcher, and the game prevented you from going certain places here by putting breakable walls. That's what a bonk looks like. So you're supposed to like climb over all these obstacles, but instead we can just break them because we have the, that's another bonk. It's another bonk, and then I fired the wrong weapon at him, so this was a bit of an unfortunate thing. And I got hit by a fly droid that was operated by someone that I couldn't see. So this stage has all kinds of interesting things happening. So here's a tricky spot. There's a soldier on the far right, and you see there, it took a full rocket and a shotgun shot and like 3 pistol shots before he dropped his shield. It's really sketchy. Normally it's not a problem, but sometimes he's just a god and stands there soaking all of your bullets and you lose a bunch of time. But yeah, the 2 rocket shots there were really big shortcuts. You're definitely not supposed to have this weapon, but it saves a ton of time. So, all things considered, that wasn't too bad. Alright, so the next stage, Ancient Chambers, is one of my favorite stages. It's so cool. It's great in any percent. It's great in 100%. There's just so much stuff going on. I love the design of this level. Any percent is extremely short, but very tough. It's a very intense stage. So we're going to start with 2 shotgun pokes again at the beginning here. And I'm going to set myself up here to break these and grab the top all in one go. And then aggro this guy, take damage as quickly as I can, which was perfect. And with my timing right there, it means that this turret is going to shoot down right instead of directly right. So that's about as perfectly as I can go at the beginning. Unfortunately, I lost a bit of time here because my swing onto ledge didn't quite work. I apparently was a little bit low on that, but it looked good to me. I'm not really sure what the problem was. But that was a great stage. Even the swings at the end are really difficult there. So those are turrets that are in the ceiling, but when you shoot them, they close up and become something that you can grapple. And you don't want to stop to shoot them, you want to just continuously move forward. But my shotgun has a long cooldown because it's only level 1, so I have to alternate between swing shooting a shotgun and swing shooting the revolver. But it's pretty great. I enjoy that stage a lot. We're going to do a rocket launcher poke here, and that's a strategy that I learned when I was working on the ILs, trying to find new skips. Essentially what happens there... Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I forgot. This is the run that has the 3 really bad stages here. This level alone lost like 8 seconds or something. Yeah, really unfortunate. I missed 3 grapples here by about 6 pixels total. The first grapple, I think, missed by a single pixel, which is unfortunate because that's a really big skip. Ideally, you'll look for a 23 or a 24 on that stage, so that was quite bad. Anyone looking to improve this run will need to practice that stage quite a lot, because that's one of the few stages where you can actually save time. Alright. So this is the gorilla fight. I mean, we're gonna have so much time to talk about this boss. I'm gonna get back to what I was saying about rocket launcher pokes, but I'll briefly explain. This guy is a fixed pattern, as always. He does, I guess it'd be his left hand sweep, then the chop, then right hand sweep, then the chop, and then he does right hand sweep again, and at that point, his left hand becomes a platform that you can grab onto. When he pulls you up, you poke his face, that startles him, then you pull his ear off and shoot him, and you repeat that 3 times. It's really simple. The DPS that I use for damaging him is Brubaker, that's our shotgun, followed by revolver. You could time a rocket shot to hit him right as you pull the ear off, but it's really tricky timing and I usually miss it, and it ends up being slower if you miss it. So, the rocket pokes, the way this bazooka works is that it has this aiming sight, right, and the wiggling of the laser actually impacts where it hits, believe it or not, and it's a very frustrating thing, because there are some long-distance snipes that you can do with the rocket launcher to hit switches that are very far away, but those depend on not only the randomness of the rockets themselves, but also where the sight is aiming, whether it's high, low, or mid. And you can only fire the bazooka, or rather, you're only intended to be able to fire the bazooka when you're far enough away from the wall. If you're too close to it, the sight won't actually trigger. Like that's the critical component here. When you push the fire button, push and hold, the sights will start, shining lasers all over the place. And if it doesn't actually have room to show you the laser, then it won't let you start. But you can push the fire button, push and hold to start aiming it, and then you can run into a wall. And the game is perfectly content to let you release a rocket at that point. the aim does still matter, high versus low, so sometimes when you do a rocket launcher poke and you want to hit something that's not only pretty deep in a wall but up high, it's possible if you get bad enough rocket trajectory that it won't actually activate the switch, and I believe that happens in a later stage, but we'll see when I get there. But it's a technique that's very useful in a number of different places. Because the hitbox of the rocket launcher is so huge, you can do some serious damage with sequence breaks and hitting switches early. It's really tough to get a hold of it when you have to do it specifically like mid-swing. Alright, so Bridge Ascent. This is a stage that for a really long time I thought was just boring. I thought it was a really ordinary level, and I kept finding more and more and more enormous sequence breaks. So this is the final form. What you're supposed to do at the beginning here is go underneath this and to the right. You're supposed to use the Euroviper, which is a weapon we just collected, which I'll explain more about later, and break a bridge and then climb along the outside. But we don't do that. We do a really tight grapple instead. So the Euroviper is this electric ball launcher. It kills every single human in one hit, whether they have a shield or not. It kills them, and it stuns robots and it prevents them from bonking you. So it's useful like everywhere. This is the best weapon in the game. Here's another rocket poke. Hit that switch. So yeah, the major sequence break at the beginning was known for a while, and then this I found out the day that I was doing attempts. You can, I mean, it's straightforward what you can do there. You just go right through the ceiling, and it saves you from having to hit 2 switches and wait on an elevator. So, previously the best time that I could get on this stage was around a 115 to 118. 103 is pretty damn good. So that was an enormous find, and I was laughing at myself for a really long time for not having tested that ceiling clip before. But there are so many options for movement in this game. It's really easy to overlook something that's honestly pretty simple. This is another really tough stage, and one that I quite enjoy. This stage becomes really tough because for a lot of the level there's no floor. If you miss a grapple, you usually just die. And there are a lot of enemies, and a lot of enemies that use, well, a lot of fly droid operators. The ones that, you know, use the little buzzy droids that bonk you around. We don't have to kill this boss, by the way. We can just leave. So it took a while to find a strategy through this level that was both fast and eliminated the threats. Like, it takes some time to kill this guy because those droids will otherwise usually kill you. And there's a pretty scary grapple there, because if you miss it like I almost did there, you die. And you respawn quite earlier. So now we're closing into the end. The end of this stage is a series of, 3, 4 platforms. Obviously they're slow, and you don't want to ride them for very long. You want to ride them the shortest amount of time possible. But again, it's very dangerous to try and skip out early on these, because if you die, then you restart before any of this happens, and you lose quite a lot of time. In this grapple at the very end off this lamp here, that one killed 2 runs immediately before this one. So I was quite nervous there, and very happy to have made it through the level cleanly. But that stage is awesome. That stage is so great. It's one of the ones that, again, I thought I had optimized a few years prior to working on any %. And then I started really grinding this down, and I had like 3 consecutive runs that beat the individual level world record for that stage. It was pretty insane. So, on the other hand, we have Air Defense Facilities, which is a stage I really liked, and now don't like very much. So a lot of these sections just have really awkwardly spaced platforms to grab, like that entire beginning climb. It's not set up in a way that's fluid. And you can grab that platform, that too wide yellow platform. You can grab that one directly, but more often than not, it just doesn't work. Alright, so once again, we have a section here with a fake ceiling. well, one tile of fake ceiling and one tile of real ceiling. So I do a skip there. I go through the gas, which is supposed to, I don't know, it's supposed to do damage at least, but sometimes it just doesn't. And then we jump through the fake ceiling and we skip quite a lot of the level. So that was a pretty okay stage. A little bit of a snag at the end with hitting the switch. The ideal situation is that when you fire that rocket, it'll hit the back wall, but that's dependent on the soldier being scared and crouching under the barrel. And sometimes that soldier decides to be the hero and stays standing. And when that happens, it's just unfortunate. Nothing you can do about it, though. Alright, this is the anti-aircraft cannon. This is a pretty cool fight. I actually enjoy this. This is, again, cycle-based, but it's short. The whole fight is only a minute long. All you have to do, you have to damage the cockpit. And then when he drops his feet, they count as breakable blocks. So you can break them either with a grenade or a death from above. And then you repeat. And if the boss isn't tethered to the floor, which he isn't when you break those little feet, then when he fires the rocket, he gets recoiled. You just wait for him to recoil all the way off. So one thing that's going to be really important in the next stage is this drop through floor trick, which we've seen a number of times. It's a really easy trick. Anybody can do it at home. I will say it only works on the 360 version. I'm playing on Xbone, but it's backwards compatible, so it's emulating a 360. It doesn't work on the PS3, so if you're playing that version and you can't get it to work, it's not you. It just doesn't work. Also, by the way, this is the stage after which you would normally get the rocket launcher, but since I already have it, it doesn't give it to me. So the way this floor glitch works, when you're crouch grappled onto something, you have the option to pull yourself forward, and they have that option so that you can essentially slide under a one tile or through a one tile gap. But if you're directly next to one of them, it will briefly pull you inside of that one tile thing, whether it's a barrel or just a stone on the ground. And in that brief moment when you're pulled inside of the object, if you do an up grapple, you'll grab the bottom of it. And when you're grabbed underneath something, the game will let you pull yourself on top of it or extend the grapple and drop through it. So really the only thing that stops us from OOBing everywhere is that the game normally doesn't let you grab something that's on the ground and go through it. You have to do that forward pull trick to grab inside of it. And once you're tethered to it, the game doesn't really care if you pull yourself further out of bounds or if you pull yourself back in bounds. It's just that initial tether that it protects. So we grabbed the whiplash in that one corridor. We grab it because it's literally just along the way. It takes like 10 frames to collect just because of the menu. But we collect it just because the whiplash, Spencer basically just swings the grapple arm around him in a circle, and any enemies that are in that circle get destroyed, and any switches that are in that circle get hit, regardless of whether or not there's a wall. So it's useful in the final level. It doesn't save much time, but it saves enough to warrant getting it. Alright, this is the most difficult stage in a run. I'm not sure if that's true, but it's my most difficult stage. Robot Factory is a stage that's quite long, unless you're a dirty cheater like me. So, I hit that switch with a grenade. That was a perfect placement, and I hit that switch with a rocket. There's one more switch we're going to hit with a rocket up here. And then, what you'd normally do is deactivate these gas jets. There's 3 of them in a row, and it's supposed to be strong enough to prevent you from getting through. But with really good timing, you can go through all of them, and I had basically no help. Unfortunately, this level is, there's a one-tile invisible barrel there that I can grab onto and go through the floor, by the way, without which this skip wouldn't be possible, so shoutouts to Invisible Barrel. But yeah, a whole lot happened there real quick. I think this is a 38, 39, yeah, 38 is the IL record, so that's really good. Swinging through gas jets sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes you die immediately when you enter the first one. Sometimes you can make it through like 2 of them, before you die. I really don't understand how the damage works on them. I've tried to find out, and I don't know. So what I do in Robot Factory is wait. There appears to be a break, so the gas jets will spray continuously and then deactivate for like a quarter second or something. And I try and time my swing through that quarter second gap. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in Robot Factory, it's supposed to be 2 rooms. Like, you go through that first screen, which is really long. Right before the first OOB, you can rewind if you're really interested, but the first OOB after the gas jets, you'll see there was a door that was closed, just to the left of that tiny room. What you're supposed to do is climb up and over the gas jets. There's a switch there that'll deactivate them, and there's a switch even further in that'll open up the door. And then you go down through, you go through the door, and it takes you to another really big room, and you work your way through that. But instead of being 2 distinct rooms, it's just 2 different areas of the same map. Nice animation glitch here. That's something that happens. This boss is super glitchy. He's supposed to like shake his head and something, but he didn't. I don't know why it happens, but it does. So yeah, Robot Factory, they just happened to put the end of the stage directly below the end of the first screen. So you just go through the floor twice and you're there. It's really convenient the way that it works out. So this is the slow stretch of the run. This is the part that I always dread, and as much as I don't like resetting when it gets 25-30 minutes into a run, especially this one because that's like past a lot of really tough stages. I still don't really mind resetting as long as I haven't played this stage. We've essentially entered a 7-minute long auto-scroller. So this boss is just like the first phase, or just like the first fight, except he's forced into 4 cycles instead of 3, because the first cycle you have to blow his ear off. And then every cycle also has 1 extra attack, that double chop attack. So not only is it more cycles, but each cycle is longer. I think like an optimal stage here is like a 352 or 354 or something. It's awful. It's so awful. And like when you're fighting this guy, you want to just fool around and push buttons and stuff, but there are a lot of really nasty glitches you can run into. This boss in particular can hardlock your console in 2 different ways, depending on how you're fooling around and what weapons you're using. So it's best to just kind of stay there, right in the middle, and don't try anything fancy. On a few occasions, like jumping around and doing really dumb stuff, I've fallen clear through the middle of this platform and died, and lost like 2.5 minutes. So this boss sucks. It's really bad. As slow as the first fight with Gorilla is, I really don't mind it, because it's a unique boss. I can't be too mad at them, but there's no reason to include this refight. It's my least favorite part of the game. That was cute there. My grapple didn't connect with his ear. And when you're tethered to something, to pull it off, you hold away. So I did a crouch grapple, and then you immediately start holding right to pull it. But if you don't notice that your grapple didn't connect, you just walk right, and you go right off his hand, and you miss an entire cycle, which is a full minute. So that was pretty scary. We follow up that thrilling fight with an auto-scroller. So we've got another 2 minutes of just flying a helicopter and shooting stuff. I hate this stage in the speedrun. I hate pretty much everything about this. I hate the music. This is one of... really, this is the only track in this game that I dislike. I really like the soundtrack for this one, as opposed to BCR 1. But the music just has no energy. The pacing of the stage is terrible. And we already played a much more exciting helicopter stage at the beginning of the game. So I like this vehicle a lot. I think it's a really cool gimmick, but I just don't like this stage, especially the hundreds of times that I've played it. So anyways, the weapon that we got from killing Gorilla 2 is the napalm launcher, which I refer to it as the suicide gun, because more often than not, you'll overcycle a weapon by accident at some point in the run, and always, 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 when I overcycle, I end up on the napalm launcher. And if you fire it when you're unprepared, it kills you. Just like straight up kills you. And it sucks. It's hilarious, but it sucks when you actually care about your time. So the napalm launcher is pretty cool. It basically fires a grenade that's on a fuse. It takes a while to blow up, except sometimes when it hits a wall, it blows up immediately. And it just spreads fire everywhere, and the fire does a ton of damage. But you only get 2 shots of it, so I'm going to upgrade it. That's going to be one of the few weapons that I upgrade, as I mentioned earlier. And that gives me 3 shots and a stronger flame, and that's going to be really important in the next boss fight, because the next boss isn't strictly cycle-based, so that's pretty cool. So we're nearing the end of the auto-scroller, and then we have a tiny, tiny bit of platforming. And the platforming in this stage is horrendous, because the enemies are placed in absolutely ingenious locations to screw up your momentum. So like every robot is in the absolutely optimally worst place. Like the shield soldiers are in terrible places for speed. It's just a really irritating stage to play all around. Wow, this was actually... Well, let's see. Yeah, okay, that was actually quite nice movement. Things can go really wrong there, and it's really easy to panic when you understand that there's a death pit underneath you. And panic is not good in that stage, because it usually just means you're going to get bonked more and just solidify your death. Alright, so what happens there? We get captured in a wooden box, and we're unable to break out despite having a whole backpack full of weapons and grenades and a bionic arm. We're stuck in a wooden crate. We're sent to prison, and now we have to escape. As for the plot in this game, I have no idea, so don't even bother asking. Prison Break's a pretty cool level, though. I actually enjoyed this stage 100% more, because the items are in interesting positions. But any percent's kind of cool. So the napalm launcher upgrade, the optimal one, is directly under here. There are a few upgrades that we can get, but this one is the fastest. Alright, so there's a robot down there that we can see is just starting to move to the right, and I don't really know what dictates where he is. Sometimes he's... It doesn't seem to be how fast I go, it seems to be based on whatever he wants. I don't really know what determines his position, but that is one source of time loss. The shotgun we saw earlier in Descent. Well, actually we saw a significantly more egregious example in the earlier stages where it just pokes clear through a wall. But the shotgun can poke through those tiny grates. So we do that to skip hitting some of them. Just poke through, shoot the switch, and move on. This part's really scary because sometimes this bot bonks you like that. Wow, I did not actually think that happened in this run. It's really unfortunate when that happens, though. And there's nothing you can do about it. Like that robot doesn't actually do damage. All he does is he has an electric field and he just drifts around. And if he hits you, you get bonked, and then his shield goes away, and you can poke him or shoot him or whatever, and he'll instantly die. But if you don't shoot him, then he rebuilds his shield and bonks you again. He's just there to push you around. Alright, Bionic Labs, I love this stage, I really do. But it's a gigantic time sink. There's a lot of stuff that can go really simply wrong. And that was a godlike shot, holy moly. Yep, okay, so that's the rocket shot that I referenced earlier. You have to shoot it really high there. And if the laser sights are oscillating at the wrong time, then the shot becomes not possible. Alright, really good. That's a really scary part. there's really no way around it. You have to land on that center platform, and there's, God, I don't even know, one of the tiny patrolling robots with spikes on the front. He's always there, and he's always aggroed. He's always angry and going as fast as he can. And if you're unprepared for him, he just pushes you off the ledge and you die. And sometimes it works out like that, where I can do a death from above and just slam right on top of him and kill him, get him out of the way. But more times than not, that'll miss, and then it'll just shove you off the ledge. Alright, so coming up next is Brubaker. He's the boss fight that isn't cycle-based, and our goal is to kill him at the beginning of his second cycle. That's the fastest you can do in any percent. So what I'm going to do is fire a Euro Viper early, because it moves slowly. So by the time the cutscene is done, it'll be hitting him. And then I just fire everything at him. The goal is to fire 2 grenades at the beginning, and then just fire like shotgun and rockets and stuff until he reaches the wall. We want to hit him with the first napalm shot there. We have exactly enough health with this setup to survive let's see, 1, 2, 3, the 3 charges from him, plus the electric floor attack here. So we just tank all of the hits, and this is the second part of the first cycle. So, at the beginning he swings his arm around, has a huge hitbox, which is why I just swing through him in the cutscene, so I don't get hit by it. And then he goes onto the ceiling, and Euro Viper is the only way to hit him here. So I waste all of my Euro Viper ammo there. And then when he drops down, I want to do 2 more grenades, napalm launcher, and then just kind of kite him backwards with the Goliath launcher, this boomerang thing. And this is one of the reasons why I... Oh man, that was close! I was not aware that I had run out of Goliath launcher ammo. That was really close. I think this is still a 108 though, which is quite good. The fastest time you can get here is a 105, and that's with completely perfect timing and everything. So if I didn't get the Goliath launcher earlier in stage 4, I wouldn't be doing enough damage to guarantee a 1.5 cycle, I'll call it. So that's the reason we get all the upgrades we do. It's to guarantee that we get that kill, because if we don't, then we have to wait until the third phase. Alright, Reactor's neat. Reactor has 0 enemies. It's just an escape. And I love this stage. It's so much fun to do, and there's so much room for these micro optimizations. It's really easy to just completely screw up the entire level. But you can see it like on some of these forward swings, like I want to make sure that I turn around before I do another up grapple. So we can watch here. I release and then turn right, release, turn left, release, turn right. Here again, release, turn right. And the reason I do that is because if you don't, there's a delay to turn around whenever you do a vertical grab. So this whole stage is just a really intense platforming level, and it's very hard to do optimally. And if you miss a single grapple, you lose a ton of time. But a whole lot of it is just turning around in midair so you can start the next swing sooner, and doing the swing onto ledge instead of pulling yourself up through. It's a great stage. I absolutely love it. Okay, General HQ. This is an enormous level. I'm actually using a route that Kenny Man found years ago. Essentially, should be unsurprising, we go through the floor at the beginning, and we take the back door. So I don't even know when you would normally get into that area, but this is absolutely not the way you go. I guess you would come down from this side. I don't know, man. But we skip the entire first half and then go directly to the second half of the stage. But this level, it has like these really cool skips that are just very hard to optimize, and I love playing it. This is one of the non-lethal uses of the Euro Viper. We stun that robot, specifically so we can swing through him, because killing those robots takes a really long time. And coming up is a neat skip that I found. We have to do this climb in a very specific way to make sure that this soldier is still on the right side and that he's going to fire a bullet early. We damage boost off the bullet, and that lets us go through the jumbo tank. That tank moves on a global timer, well, a stage timer. So if you're playing optimally, he's going to be like smack dab in the middle of that hallway, and you can't get past him. You have to kill him. and you can't jump through them off of his hits. So you have to make sure that guy's firing a bullet for you to damage boost off of, so that you can go through that guy without getting hit. Or without killing him, rather. It's really clever. And then I finished the stage underground to skip a cutscene. It's a great level. Alright, this one's super scary. This is Countdown. This is a stage I really hate. Especially because it's killed a large number of my runs. Oh, I don't do it. Okay. I found a new strat in this stage like a few hours before I did attempts. I just made sure that I didn't lose this run. If you get bonked by a single enemy at the top, you fall to the beginning of the stage. It's like a 20-second detour if you're lucky. So the individual level record is a 19.5. That was a 27.7. The IL strats are absolutely not feasible for a single segment run. But I could still save about 4 to 5 seconds if I decided to use the risky strats. Alright, so we have one more boss, nope, 2 more bosses, but one more boss refight. This is Megacopter, the Return. I actually don't mind this refight, mostly because the first time we fought him we had the crutch of the platform just floating on the right side that we could just grab onto and dangle. This time we actually have to play it honestly, and you can see the way that you're supposed to fight him. So there are 3 exhausts, man, I don't know, jets, I guess. You're supposed to grab the one that isn't firing, and when you're in the middle, you shoot these things. And then again, it's the same. So I'm going to pull myself up once these go horizontal, shoot the plunger with the rocket, and then shoot the golf cart guy with the Goliath launcher, and then rinse and repeat. So, not too bad. I should reiterate, there is no way to skip a cycle here. I've toyed around with a large number of things. One of my favorite attempts was staying on top of the button after killing the golf cart guy. Well, not killing him, but damaging him until he retreats inside. And I was hoping that the game's only protection for you skipping that is that they don't expect you to be able to get back up there after killing him. But I was able to do it, and the plunger doesn't activate. It's actually a surprising amount of protection for cycle skips. And if you weaken him down to, like, oh man, let's say you have perfect eyesight and perfect sense of damage values. If you get him 1 pixel away from ending phase and you shoot him with a rocket and a shotgun and grenades on the same frame, it'll do 1 pixel of damage. So you can't overflow the damage to, instead of doing like 3 average cycles, just do 2 extremely damaging cycles. You can't do it. The game is hard-coded to protect against it, which is a bit of a shame. But not too big of a shame, because that would be extraordinarily difficult to do. Alright, so coming up next we have the point of no return. At this point in the game we have to deactivate these missiles. I think this game is essentially Cuban Missile Crisis with Spencer. So we want to prevent them from destroying everything. Yeah. So these rockets, for some reason or another, have scaffolding on the outside, which is very convenient for us, but not really sure about the engineer who made these. But all you have to do is go from rocket to rocket, and you have to break that core. Now, if you've been paying attention, you would remember that you can poke your grapple through walls. I am shocked that that grenade did not hit. That's a 100% setup. I'm actually kind of upset that that didn't hit. Alright. So you can actually destroy this core from the door that you came from. You can just poke your grapple through until it dies. But you have to hit all of those switches anyways to deactivate the floor. You can't actually climb through to get to the exit until that is gone. There are no major sequence breaks that you can do here, except for that jump that I did onto that missile. This whole stage is just 3 minutes of movement optimizations. It's honestly a really cool stage to play. Quite difficult your first time, but very fun once you know it. So once again, we hit that switch, that deactivates that floor. We can break this core. This... Yeah, okay, this one isn't bad. I'm just thinking of the next one. So the tricky thing here... Whoop, okay. I pulled myself up on the left side of that platform. These things, whatever these weird yellow things are, they're circles. And if you're on the left half of the center, then you slide off the left side. If you're on the right half, then you slide off the right side. So that's what happened there. This is a really scary section. Anytime that there are crushers and you have to swing, it's terrifying. This game has really bad crusher detection. And if you're swinging at all near a crusher, it just instantly kills you. That's the use of Whiplash right there. It hits those two targets. Again, like I said earlier when I collected the Whiplash, it really doesn't save much time, but it saves just enough to make it worthwhile. So yeah, the swings under those crushers are really difficult, because if you're... Like, it looks like I'm really slow getting under them, but if you're any quicker, the game will detect that you're swinging at near a crusher, and it will kill you. This is another section where you can do some turnaround grapples and swing onto ledges. But if you miss one of those, you go all the way back down. And if you're lucky, you'll get to redo the climbing section. If you're unlucky, you die. And it's awful, especially for the last stage of a run. Okay, so that's the last missile we have to deactivate. We just have one more piece of scaffolding to climb, and then the stage is over. There is a power-up that you get here. It's not really a power-up. It's well, it's the treasure radar. It tells you where power-ups are, but you get it on the last stage. I guess they intend you to go back through and find the things that you missed, but it's of no use to us. It just takes time to move around it rather than collect it. But a 304 is a super good time. The holy grail for a single segment run is sub 3. But that's very difficult. I think my IL record is a 253 or something. Alright, so this is the final level. It's just a boss fight. I improved my movement in this beginning section quite a lot, which is handy. It's something that I never really figured to practice until like a few days before these runs. Just one of those things that's really mundane, and I just ended up winging it every time. So, this is McNamara. From what Murphigator has told me about this story, McNamara essentially came into possession of a whole bunch of bionic pieces. So, these, the Bionic Commandos, they have one bionic implant, whether it's legs or an arm or an eye or whatever it is. They have one, and we learned from 2K9, Bionic Commando 2K9, that you need good compatibility with the hosts for them to be functional. Otherwise, you go completely crazy. So what happened to McNamara is that he just stole a whole bunch of these bionic implants and attached all of them to himself. So he's like entirely bionic. He's got 2 bionic arms, he's got some legs, I don't know, whatever kind of weird missile pack he's got. And he went bonkers. And it was nice of him to deactivate the final missile for us, but then he decides to just destroy everything on his own. So it's not so cool. Anyways, this boss shouldn't be a surprise. This boss is cycle-based. This boss is interesting in that there are 2 gimmicks that you're forced to do here to kill him, which are never required at any point in the game. So, he starts by firing these rockets all over the place, which are a pain and a half to dodge, and lag the console a whole lot. And then he drops a bomb right in the middle. And you have to pick up the bomb, and you have to roll it. And rolling is something that's never required. You hold down and throw. And then after that, you have to walk to the edge and walk around the platform here, which is, again, something that doesn't happen anywhere in the game. And my first time playing this fight, I was furious. Like, I had no idea what to do after I rolled the bomb into the tower here, and I didn't even know how to roll it. It was just an accident. But yeah, I had no idea how to walk around the platform. I was like trying to do all kinds of swinging stalls, and it wasn't working. I was not happy. But once you know the gimmick, it's a pretty simple fight. the last bomb. And like I said before, I time using SDA timing, Speed Demos Archive timing, whenever possible. The time stops right there when the HUD disappears. That's Spencer's life bar in the bottom left. SDA timing is, I'm not going to say it's the correct way to time, because there certainly is no correct way to time, and RTA timing is something that's become increasingly popular for people. That's real-time attack timing method. But SDA timing is something that's just always standard. It always means the same thing. Time from when you first gain control of your character to when you lose time. So, for this run, much like most of the other runs you see on my YouTube channel, or on SDA, I time via SDA timing. And then, in rare occasions, I'll actually mention what the RTA time is, or something like that for a competitive game. But anyways, that's the end of this run. I'm really happy with the way this run turned out. I'm certainly not done with this category, but I'm going to be taking a break from this for a while. I just wanted one run that had all of the up-to-date strats and didn't have any unintentional deaths. And it took a really long time because it's very easy to die in this game, and it's very easy to lose a lot of time. But I'm very happy with this time. I really just wanted a run that I could use for a GDQ submission, because I plan to submit this every event until it gets accepted. And on the chance it does get accepted, I will return to it and try and grind the time down lower. So this is a 54-34, and I think, well, you know what, let's just open it up and find out. I think my sum of best is a low, or a mid 53, let's see, PCR2. 53-34. Alright, so it's a minute 11 faster, my sum of best. So, yeah, I think getting a 53, anything below 54 by my split timing, which would be around a 53.50 or so. I think that would be probably my final time for this category. But certainly this is a very good run. I'm extremely happy with it. It's definitely not flawless. There's loads of mistakes here and there, and there's pretty bad luck here and there as well. But overall, it's good. I'm very happy with it. I really love this game. I hope that at least some people who despise this game can have a greater appreciation for it after having watched this run. It really is a shame that so many people hate this game, because it's outstanding. I think it's really great. But that's that. So I won't be improving this run until it gets into a GDQ, and 100% category can be improved by quite a lot, from route improvements and just because my movement has gotten so much better in the past 2 years. So you can expect to see some 100% work in the future, but for now I'm going to enjoy a little bit of a break from Bionic Commando. It's been a very long journey. Not just for this game, but for the whole series. So, I really hope you enjoyed this run. If you have any questions about this game, please feel free to ask. I am more than happy to talk about it. And I hope to, in the future, make some tutorials and some explanations of the glitches in this game, and some of the other tricks that you can do to optimize your movement. So, any questions that you have will help feed into that and make it more informative for everybody else. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed the run. I will see you guys next time.